Hello, people! Thanks for joining me. I'm Scott, and this is a Gibson Les Paul Studio, 10 years old. It was strung up with 11 gauge strings, and it hit the concrete with the strings at full tension. These guitars were not designed for that sort of abuse. These headstocks are pitched at about 18 degrees, and they're made of a very soft, porous wood called mahogany. It's a good wood, but it can't handle that sort of abuse. So join me today. We'll do our best to fix this up and make it look halfway decent.
So this is the Les Paul Studio. This one was built to celebrate Les Paul's 100th birthday. What would have been his 100th birthday. He didn't live to be that old, but this was the year. And the one thing I noticed about this guitar that's really unusual is how wide the nut is, or how wide the neck is at the nut. I mean, it is wide. I'm going to measure it and let you know exactly what it was. But this color, also we'll take a look at the color. You might call it like a heritage cherry. It's definitely one of those bright red cherries. It doesn't have any brown in it, just the brown from the wood. Okay, what's the deal here? They lacquered over the brass acorn nut. This is how you adjust the truss rod, and I couldn't even get it off the guitar before chipping off the black paint. So surgery number one, remove the black paint from the acorn nut, remove the nut, and sometimes I remove the half moon washer that sits up against the wood. It's sandwiched in between the truss rod nut and the wood, but in this case it was painted in, so I just kind of left it there. Yeah, so this particular break it's shallow and it needs reinforcement. I'm also noticing here that the headstock overlay, the veneer, it's like a paper veneer or a fiber. They might call it a fiber veneer. It's that gray material. It's not stuck down perfectly to the wood anymore, and I need to get a little bit of water-thin glue in there. I don't want to gunk it up with any thick glue at this point. I just want to make sure everything's good and stuck together. So I think StewMac number 10 water thin CA glue, cyanoacrylate glue, is the best bet. Now this doesn't have to be like the most structural part of the glue up. This is just to make sure there's something holding it together. If there's an air gap anywhere in this process of gluing this up and adding cleats or doing the backstrap overlay, it can cause problems down the road. It can cause the neck to be too flexible. It can cause the guitar to not sound as good as it should. So everything needs to be held together nicely. I'll just pinch this together with my fingers and spray it with a little bit of the Glue Dry Accelerator from Glue Boost. The Glue Dry Accelerator is non-blushing, and it was sitting right there, so I used it. I could have used the StewMac Brush On Liquid Accelerator right there, but I didn't have two hands free. And you need two hands to kind of twist off the cap. I'm getting pretty good at pulling the Glue Dry Accelerator out and using it with one hand. I'll be ready to brush on a little bit of this Johnson's paste wax. I'm going to put this in all the areas where I don't want the glue to squeeze out and permanently stick to. I want to be able to chip off any squeeze out, and this will help. Sometimes on a break as shallow as this, I have a hard time holding the two parts together without them sliding apart when I use Titebond glue, because Titebond is real slippery. So I'm going to use the West Systems 2-part epoxy. It takes 1 part of the hardener plus 5 parts of the resin, a total of 6 parts. And I weigh it out on this little scale. I'm weighing it out in grams. Once I get the right mix, I take a dowel and stir it for a good minute or two. I slather a little bit of epoxy on both sides, and then I use a thickener and put a little bit of thickened epoxy in between and make a little sandwich. The thin stuff right here in the state that it's in right there creeps down into every last little fiber of wood, which is nice. And then the thickener adds strength. So I want the benefits of the thin and the strength of the thickened all in the same glue up. But this is just the start of it all. Once it's glued up, tomorrow we'll take the clamps off and we'll start carving away, and we'll do in a big old mahogany backstrap. I'm not going to really show you guys like step by step how to do a mahogany backstrap on a guitar. The Luth group has a 3-part video for that. If you're interested in learning how to do a backstrap, you should watch my video, of course, but also watch the Luth group's 3-part video where Ian Davlin goes through and he really explains why you do all these things and exactly how you do them. The thing I'm going to focus on in my video mostly is the finishing part, the very last color steps and clear finish coats. Ian actually was intending on making a part 4, but I don't know if the footage got lost or what happened, but there is no part 4. It's just 3, but it was supposed to be 4, he said. Well, you'll see in it. He gets to starting the color at the end of part 3, and that's it. There's no part 4. So in my video, we're going to, at the very end, it's not going to take a lot of time. It's the thing that's actually going to take me the least amount of time is the clear finish at the very end of this video. But it's a very important step, so we'll talk about it some more later. Here's the colloidal silica. This is the thickener I was talking about. I'm just going to mop a little bit on. Just mop it on one side, doesn't matter that much, just a little here and there. And a lot of it's going to squeeze out anyhow. I always use like 20 times too much of this stuff. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just must like it a lot. Or it just seems like you're mixing up such a small amount, and then you should use it up, but it just takes hardly any of it. Wax paper, MDF caul. That's where I realized how wide the neck was. That caul has always fit under there before in the past, and it didn't this time. And that's that. I let gravity and the clamps kind of hold it in place. This stuff takes like 11 to 12 hours to fully cure. I just leave it overnight, leave it till the next day. It didn't slide apart at all. Yeah, the nice thing about this setup of mine with the 2 MDF cauls on either side and the clamps is you can reach in and clean out the squeeze out. You should come back every 3 hours or so and see if there's any extra squeeze out to clean up. It's much better to clean it up and take the time to clean it up while it's still wet, because cleaning it up the next day when it's hard as a rock is one of the worst jobs. And there you can see the 2 missing chunks of mahogany. I decided the backstrap overlay would be the best scenario because of that. Two splines down the middle and then a little plug in between the 2 splines. I don't think really, I don't know. I think the overlay looks the best when it's finished. You'll see. It does look really, really good when it's done.
Day 2, epoxy is rock hard. That's what you want to see. That means this baby's gonna be really good. Now, I gotta decide what to do. What to do. Okay, I think this is ugly, and this, I mean, if I were just to go and repair this spot, it wouldn't really structurally give much help. So what I'm thinking right now is backstrap from here to here. Scoop out all this wood, replace it with fresh mahogany, reshape, repaint. It's gonna treat this whole area, strengthen it, and make it beautiful again. That's pretty bad. The glue up went well though. How are you going to make that look good again without just getting some fresh wood on there? Hi, Paul. How you doing, guys? And here's that. Epoxy squeeze. There are 2 small gaps that I can see right now, right here. I'll drop some fill and finish in there and sand this smooth. Okay, we're out in the garage here. We got her all rigged up for some carving. I've got my dust collector up there on the ceiling. And it's a beautiful day. Yeah, last time I took you out here it was snowing. Now it's mid-April. By the time the video gets published it'll be mid-May. But everything's starting to look good out here. Got the grass looking good. Can't say so much for the neighbor's grass. I'm gonna draw a nice crisp line right across this peghead, and I'm gonna remove all this wood. I'm going to remove the wood from here to here and put in a big chunk of mahogany that will stiffen and look pretty good. I was thinking about trying to remove old Les Paul here, but it turns out he's under a layer of lacquer. So I don't think there's any way to preserve him. by the way, if you want if you want to try this on one of yours, there's a detailed video on the Luth Group YouTube channel, 3-part video. Ian Davlin did it about 3-4 years ago, and that's where I got all the information on what I'm doing today. Lacquer up here, I'll use the file and the rasps. I got that new razor file, which I'm looking forward to using. And the reason for removing such a wide area is for strength. And he'd really like to play with 11s, but even though I discourage it, it could be a thing with a backstrap this large. This is that razor file I was talking about.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up out here in the garage. I'm moving it indoors now to do the final sanding, shaping, and I'm going to start on the finishing. I've got it all shaped by now, and I'm putting in a little grain filler, or pore filler they call it. I'm just using Stumac powdered brown. I think they call it rosewood. It comes in a little bag. It's just a powder. You mix a little water in there, and I mixed in a little red and a little black to make it darker. Or maybe I mixed in some like liquid Kalamazoo mahogany stain. Get it a little darker. It's kind of a light brown. Basically, it dries after a few hours. You can squeegee it off. And oh yeah, I like to spray one coat of Zinsser spray shellac right out of the rattle can before I do the pore fill. And then I wipe it with this cheesecloth or tack cloth. And then I spray another, there it is, bullseye shellac. I spray another coat. I just take an old sheet and lay it out in the room. Then I scuff it up with the 3M Scotch-Brite Maroon. It'll give it about a 320 grit tooth to it. And then it should be ready for a little glue boosting. I'm gonna try some glue boost on this because I have their red, which is a nice red, but it's worked on real small areas. I've used it on a couple small areas and it's worked out real good. I've never wiped it across a large area like this before, but I'll lay down a little glue boost as a barrier coat with this swab. This is called a lip brush. Ladies use these lip brushes to do their lips nowadays, I guess. But they're pretty resilient to cyanoacrylate glue. They'll dissolve after a little while, but they don't dissolve them kicking off like a regular cotton Q-tip. They're some type of foam material. So now you can see I've added in a little bit of the red. And to me, it looks pink. But you'll see the backstrap is a lighter brown and the existing mahogany, the older mahogany, is a medium brown. So maybe I'll add a little brown to the red. I've got the brown master tint now too. And so you'll see I'm starting to get into the ballpark a little bit closer. Let's say. I'm going to find out here in a second that I'm not going to be happy with this kind of application over such a large area. I'm going to whip out the spray equipment. And all the stuff I'm using, I can use it right in the house. Indoors. Okay, so there I'm getting carried away. I'm doing this. I'm glue boost red all over this thing. About the time I decided that it's too streaky. I don't want no streaky ass guitar leaving my shop. So I think I'll accelerate here. I'll sand off a little bit, sand it back down, and get out the spray equipment. What I do with the spray equipment is I have a little CO2 tank. It's the type of tank you would use for your carbonated beverages, maybe your soda pops, maybe your beer keg, something like that. And I have a little regulator on it. I mix up some 1.5 pound or 2 pound cut shellac with a little bit of denatured alcohol to thin it down. And I put in a couple different reds to give me a nice dark, deep mahogany-ish red. And I'm going to spray it right out of the StewMac airbrush outfit, they call it. I'm going to mix in the cherry red with a little bit of blue. That's that Bordeaux red. Has a little Scotia blue in it, which will give you that kind of wine color that Gibson gets. Before I spray it, I like to mask off within 1/8 of an inch of the target area. And then after I spray it, I peel off the masking and I scrape away at the 1/8 inch perimeter, which is going to be like a dark bullseye. Kind of scratch that off and help blend the two areas together. There's the regulator in the CO2 tank. That's just a 5-pound tank. You get it over at the gas supply. And I got the StewMac airbrush outfit there. You can see right here, because of my high carb diet, I'm pushing maximum density in this shot. And I went on a high protein diet, watching them carbs. You'll see by the end of the video I've lost 5 pounds. And I've also found out that eating less carbs, it takes away those cravings for snacks in between meals. Man, them carbs, man, they're like, all those sugars are really addicting. Makes you hungry all the time when you eat a high carb diet like I did. For many years I was eating that way. Pizza, donuts, chips. Oh man. Bread, potatoes. All right, back to work. There's the StewMac airbrush outfit. They're only like $16 last time I looked. Maybe they're 20 now. I like to turn the lights off in the room and just use the light coming through the windows. It's the best way that I can see that transition line, that little 1/8 inch line that I need to scratch at. I use a scalpel blade. It's kind of tedious, but should be a fairly good result. All right, one more coat of shellac. I think I decided I'm going to take it down and I just want to put one clear coat, one barrier coat on here, and then take it down and spray some lacquer. Well, here's the latest on the Les Paul. I brought her down and started spraying some lacquer, and so far so good. I hit it with a few coats of this Ultra Flow flat, and then I hit it with something called Mohawk Dark Red Mahogany Toner, and then I started spraying a few more coats of this, just mist coats, just to protect the color coat. Next, I'll start spraying some heavy build coats, and it might take a couple weeks because it's getting kind of humid. It's been rainy. I'm going to turn on the dehumidifier. All right, over here's the dehumidifier. That's going. I got the drip line going out the wall there, so I don't have to empty the tank, which is super convenient. Cropper's workstation, crossover mini. There's the dark red mahogany toner. Okay, latest update is I didn't like how there was some darker kind of transitional color, and I didn't like it, so I loaded up the airbrush again with a little bit more opaque blend. It was some Blendall red with some Mixall red, which are both opaque, and then a little cherry red and a little Bordeaux. And I sprayed it over the top, and it made it less translucent, but it also made it blend together nicer with the whole, the whole thing's just a nicer overall thing. And another thing I wanted to point out is this V shape that I carved into the neck right there. I noticed this on a specialty build. It was a Bouzouki, Brian Hanlon's Bouzouki. And I thought, what a great strengthening idea to create a little V shape there in the volute for strength. Because those 100-year-old guitars that have the V-shaped neck and no truss rods, all their necks are completely 100% flat as a pancake with all that string tension over the years and no truss rod. So the V shape is for strength. I know it's not the original thing, but if Gibson actually did that on their builds, maybe they would break less guitars. So since this one's been broken already, I thought it was a great idea. That little bit of lacquer sinking down into the joint is normal. That'll go away when I start spraying build coats. But right now I'm just spraying some what we call mist coats. You want to spray light mist coats over your color coats, at least the first 2 or 3 coats, That is so that the color doesn't sag or run or drip off. After you spray a few of these mist coats, let me do a couple. So it doesn't look like really wet, just kind of pebbly. That way the lacquer doesn't drip. Now after this last coat or mist coat, I'll start laying it on heavier. And at that point, I won't have to worry about the color dripping. And if the clear drips, it's not the end of the world. You can sand it off the next day and then start over. Brought it inside under the bright LEDs. Looks a little different under these lights. But look what happened on the peghead face. I sanded it, and I think all the epoxy that squeezed out originally, when I sanded it, it just came out because there's some gap filling to do now. That needs to be helped out a bit before I go one step further. I need to glue boost it again. So now we're entering the final finishing stage, and I'm going ahead with the Glue Boost Fill and Finish Ultra Thin and some Glue Dry Accelerate Tar. It's been raining like every day, and I've got hundreds of guitars that need worked on. I can't wait around for this weather to change and the lacquer to cure and all that stuff. And I think this Glue Boost was kind of the best way to fill in the uneven surface on the back side of the headstock. Here's my little fart fan in the wall. I spray the glue dry accelerator over there on a paper towel, and then I bring it over here and wipe it in between each coat. I usually do 7 or 8 coats, let it harden for an hour or two, and then I dry sand with 600 grit, free cut. And then I wipe on like 2 more really wet, thin coats. They're like, I make sure that the paper towel is really saturated so that it goes down extra smooth. And after those last 2 coats, I never sand it with very gritty sandpaper. I'll describe it more in a second, but this is the buffing. I just buff it by hand. After 3,000 Trizact, I use the Meguiar's compound. Automotive stuff. Trizact's automotive, the compounds are automotive, and this little buffing pad is an automotive product too. No witness line between the old lacquer and the new fill and finish. As long as you clean it real good and scuff it up real good, you shouldn't have to worry about any bogus looking witness lines. Well, we're to home plate almost here. It really was the easiest part for me, was just the clear finish right here at the end. It only took 2 days. 1 day to apply it all, and the second day to buff and reassemble the guitar. There's a few little scratches in it, but it's pretty reflective. It's a pretty decent finish. It's especially hard to get a good, nice, glossy finish on a black surface. You know how it shows every little scratch and every fingerprint, everything. So once we get our fingerprints on this guitar, it'll look pretty normal. "10 through 46 strings. We're going with a relief of 8/1000ths of an inch. I'm setting the action at 4/1000ths of an inch, or just under 4/1000ths on the bass side at the 12th fret, and about 3.5 64ths. I'm sorry, 3.5 64ths, 4 64ths.
Starting to like about using the glue boost as a final finish is that it doesn't sink down into the serial numbers. When you spray over the serial numbers, it goes down inside where they're punched in, and it fills them eventually. But when you're wiping it on with glue boost, that doesn't happen. So they stay kind of factory looking. And well, there's a lot of other reasons to like the glue boost too. But I'll tell you, if you're trying glue boost as a final finish and it's looking real scratchy, the way I get around that is I apply all the layers, maybe 7 or 8 different sessions of, wiping and accelerating and wiping and accelerating. Then I level sand it with 600 grit. And then I give it 2 more wipes, and I try to get real wet wipes. Throw the paper towel away, and the paper towel has to be folded over twice. And I back it up with more paper towels that have wax on them, so I don't get the glue boost stuck to my fingers and stuff. And I use a long straight edge to kind of wrap the paper towels. And after those 2 wipes, I never go back down below 1500 grit wet sand. I do 15, 2K, and 3K Trizact, all wet sanded, and then I buff with the Meguiar's 105 Ultra Cut Compound. And it's a mirror-like finish with very little scratchy appearances. I'll get you one last shot as we zoom out. But thanks for tuning in and watching. Hope to see you next week. We'll catch you later.